User stories and jobs to be done are the two most favorite frameworks used by product designers to specify a software. If you've worked at product design or product development, you have probably seen people using those two frameworks to describe a software. And basically what they do is they give people a common language to talk about what should be in a software. And the two most important frameworks are user stories and jobs to be done, also often referred as jobs stories. In this video, I'm going to discuss the fundamental difference between those two frameworks and then also apply them to our own product, which we are building right here on this YouTube channel. You have probably heard of user stories. It's a tool to initiate a conversation between a user and the person who's designing the software. And it should give a framework of how to talk about the feature that this user needs. Having a chat with the actual user of a software is much more efficient than writing down the requirements in a document. Stories are often expressed in a sentence which goes like this. As a role, I can, capability, so that the user gets a certain benefit. To break it down, the as a part is the role, or you can say the persona the user has. The what is the feature the user is actually using. What's the capability that the user gains by using this story? And the why is important so that we see the reason why people want to use it, to understand if we need the story in the first place. Once we have outlined the user stories, we map them out on a journey. This is basically the timeline the user goes through when using the app. So for the full duration of a usage for a certain user, there are multiple stories involved. So we map them out as they happen step by step. If one step involves multiple things that don't necessarily need to be together, but could be like add-ons, we group them in the y-axis. So the y-axis, which goes down here, is the actual priority. And now you see the complete picture. We map the user stories step by step in time and the priority on the y-axis. And now we can clearly identify the MVP, because we can say these are the stories we actually need in order to get the user to his goal. And the priority means there might be some story which is just a nice to have. So we can carve that out and we don't need it for the MVP. So the red line here, everything above the red line denotes our MVP. User stories come with a couple of limitations. The main thing is they're user-centric. So everything that you describe in a user story actually has something to do with the user. So it's harder to describe background processes, for example. Additionally, there is a certain risk to include user stories that are not actually relevant. As you're talking to users, they might just give you 1,000 things that they want to have, and maybe not all of them are so necessary. So that's why the prioritization is a very important step in creating the user journey and eventually the MVP. And another drawback is that user stories usually don't emphasize any long-term effects. That's just what the user needs right now. So the potential gain of the user on the long time horizon is not taken into account here. While user stories are very straightforward and always used in the same way, jobs to be done comes from 4 decades of research and have emerged from multiple sources. The core principles are similar though. We are going to focus on software development here because that's the topic of our channel. The key person making jobs to be done famous was Theodore Levitt. He figured out that people actually don't want to buy a certain solution. They're going to just hire a product to fulfill that solution. As you've already figured out, the key point is that we have to focus on the solution and not on the method to get there. So for example, people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill. They would just want the hole. So they want to hire that drill to make the hole for them. To conclude, the jobs to be done is the transition that the product enables from the problem to the solution. How does jobs to be done work? Well, we also have a sentence here, verb, object, and context. And we're going to break this down right now. We will first define the core functionality of our app. And of course, this should be done in a customer survey. In our case, the core functional sounds like this. When trying to create and share professional videos, so the core job to be done, in a collaborative and engaging manner, that's a situation, the essential functionality involves providing users with intuitive tools for video creation, customization, and seamless sharing within a professional context. When we define the outcomes, our jobs to be done is relatively clear. The outcome is a shareable URL where people can take that URL and send it to their coworkers, paste it into a group chat, and have other people easily access the videos. For the emotional jobs, I personally don't think this is so important, but here we go. When sharing a video, we should feel competent and accomplished. And for example, also when we do end of day demos or end of week demos, we should feel a sense of accomplishment of having that done and then being able to log off for the day. In summary, jobs to be done usually comes early in the process. You're thinking about what is the problem that you're trying to solve and how do you solve that roughly. On the other side, user stories come a bit later because they involve use cases for actual users. So user stories are great when you're actually extending functionality of an app or when you're thinking about the MVP itself. However, user stories usually come a bit later in the process. From now on, we only use user stories because the problem solution is already kind of clear. That was a quick overview about jobs to be done versus user stories. In the next videos, we're going to do mockup creation, MVP planning, UI design, and project planning. And then at one point, we're also going to code our app and make it accessible. So we hope you're also going to try it out. Subscribe to this channel and follow us along on this journey.